This time around, we are going to looking at a new thing. We are going to be looking at a new subject or a new discipline. This discipline is going to be the post-independence Africa. When you look at the post-independence Africa, we are going to be looking at the different things. So when you look at our course outline, say that shall be looking at the territories, and then you look at the regions of Africa, and also look at politics and economics and the economy of Africa. Then you look at the demography, that will be population and regions in Africa, the regions in Africa. Then you look at the neocolonialism and also its impact on the growth of Africa. So that is our major emphasis or our coverage that we will do. But so I would like to start with what we call Africa as our major emphasis. We are going to be looking at the territories or regions that make up Africa. When you look at Africa, it is one of the second most popular continents all over the world. This one they are saying that at about uh, 30.3 million, they say it has what we call countries that around 100, that around 54, and it has got what we call sovereign states or countries. They say that it has 9 territories, and also it has two de facto real independent states or countries. They are saying in the forested regions of West Africa, that is say we have what called the independent kingdom, which grew with a little influence of the Muslims in the north. So we are going to be looking at that territory in the north that is mainly dominated by the Muslims. And then they say that when you look at Africa, it is nicknamed the mother continent just because of its being old, uh, it's being hot, and also uh, inherited continent on the earth with humans and human ancestors. They are saying that when you look at Africa, you say that the second largest continent is bordered by Mediterranean Sea. Talk about Red Sea. Then also mention about the Indian Ocean. Then talk about the Atlantic Ocean. So that is what we call uh, Africa as a continent, and it has also got what we call the equator that divides the earth into two equal halves, or that divides into the world into equal halves. So that's what we call the earth. When you look at Africa, Africa has got the physical geography or physical environment resources and human geography that can be considered or that can be displayed or that we are going to be looking at as we continue with our studies. And then when you look at Africa, you see it has 8 major physical regions. We have what called the Sahara, Sahel, then the Ethiopian highlands, then talk about the savannah, then talk about the Swahili coast or the East African coast. I talk about the rainforest, that is the Congo basin. I then talk about the African Great Lakes, that is the African Great Lakes. We are talking about Kenya, we're talking about Victoria. Talk about the South Africa, the Republic of South Africa, another South African territories. And then they are saying that some of the regions are covered bands of continents, such as Sahara. It covers some parts of Africa. Then they are talking about Sahel. We are going to be seeing also Sahel in terms of location. Then we also have what called the Great Lakes of East Africa. Then we are going to talk about the unique animals and plants that are found within East Africa as a continent. When we go on, we are saying that Sahara is the world's still hottest desert, covering around 8.5 million square kilometers. So that is the Sahara Desert. In terms of square meters, they're saying that about the size of the South American country of Brazil, defining that Africa's north north Brugger, north Brugger, and then Saharan makes up around 25% of the continent. The Saharan desert has a number of distinct features that we usually find: the oasis, regs, then edges, and the hamadas. Those are some of the things that we find within the Saharan desert. And this one covers around 20% of the Saharan, and they are saying that they have also got what we call the sand dunes, and this one they stretch around 100 kilometers of its height. So those are what we call the Saharan desert. So below there they are trying to show the oasis in terms of stretches and the percentage in terms of the population that tend to be living around the Saharan desert, that it is around 70%. When you look at the plants here, they are saying that plants have also dominated the areas in the drier areas, but most important, I think that the killing of Jarubo. Then talk about the type of rodents. So there are very many wild species or animal species and plant species that are found within those areas. But these ones mainly grow at areas where have high percentage of oasis, or people where tend to be living near the oasis that do carry out crop growing and also rearing of animals. Then you have what called the Sahel. Sahel is a narrow band of a semi-arid land that forms around the transition zone between the Sahara to the north and also to the savannas to the south. It is made up of flat brandy plains that stretch roughly around 5,400 kilometers with miles of 33,300 miles. Yeah, so that is what we call the Sahel. The Sahel, they're saying, it is from Senegal up to Sudan. That is the Sahel. They're saying that it contains fertile deltas, for instance, Niger, and Africa's largest river. That is the River Nile. They are saying that the Sahel fertile lands is rapidly becoming a desert as due to deforestation, deserts, then intensive agriculture, the process known as desertification. Animals are also carried out, or they are also reared around different sources of water, or they have water. They are saying that 10% of the population do that. When we move on, we are seeing now the Ethiopian Highlands. With the Ethiopian Highlands, this one ranks about around 75% years ago. Those are the Ethiopian Highlands. These ones, they have got the ancient rocks with the broad dome of ancient rocks. When we talk about broad dome, they appear to be round shaped. They are saying the continent crust pulled a part of the Great Rift Valley. Today they are saying this valley is out into what we call the Ethiopian Highlands after the extension or the pooling of the Great East African Valley. That's why we had to fight to get what we call the Ethiopian Highlands. Then the Savannah grasslands or Savannah. This one covers around half of the Africa's most, and they say that 13 million square and also the 5 million squares. Those are the grasslands that make up the Central Africa, beginning from what we term the south of Sahara and also the Sahel. at the end. And then you have what we call the Serengeti is also within that region, where you have the savannah. And Serengeti is a home to one of the continent's highest concentration of large mammals or species, including lions, hyenas, zebras, beavers, and talk about the elephants. So that area is known for keeping different species. The world best travel in terms of tourism. It is what we call the savannah. Then we have what we call Swahili Coast. When we talk about Swahili Coast, it reaches around 1610 kilometers. In other words, it reaches around 1,000 miles from the Indian Ocean, from Somalia to Mozambique. So this one has got different features around it. For instance, the coral reef sea, the inland that tend to protect the coast from severe weather conditions. Those are what we call the coral reef sea or coral highlands. When you talk about the coral reefs, you have the barrier highlands, coral reef sea, as in types, and also the barrier reef sea, and also the atoll. So those are reefs that tend to be developing there. It is also an area with vast range of wildlife, of animals that tend to be living around within the area, depending to small primates, all species known as the bush babies inhabitants. They are vegetated areas of Swahili Coast. In others, they have around green or vegetation around it. They are saying eyes for hunting at night. They are also important. People do go in for hunting during night. They are saying feeds primarily on insects from plants and or from plants and leaves. So those are some of the things you can talk about. Then you have what we call the rainforest. Rainforest, I talked about 80% of African rainforests are concentrated in what we call the Central Africa along the Congo Basin River. So that is what we call the forest river. Then you have what we call the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes I told you about. We are looking at the lakes located in the 9 countries surrounded by the Great Lakes of East Africa. And not of the inland lakes, the deep crater lakes created after the Earth's surface had undertaken eruption due to the geographical processes or demographic processes. Talk about Tanganyika, Victoria, Edward, Kivu, Tanganyika, Turkana, Victoria, River Nile. So all those are what we call the Great Lakes of East Africa. So they switch about, so they have different animals that we tend to be getting from there. They may be the fish species, and the most known is what we call the Nile perch, which is around 2.5 centimeters in terms of centimeters or inches, and other wide range of species that we usually obtain from this area. Then you have what we call the South Africa. When you look at the South Africa, this one is dominated by the beautiful cape around the shore. That is at the South African Cape. This one, they are saying that more than 2.6 billion years ago, rocky features of South Africa include the plateau. Talk about mountains. For instance, the Drakensberg. This one tend to be attracting a number of tourists from very many countries of the world into South Africa. This one is also known by various ranges of animals that do tend living all around the Cape or around South Africa due to the different game parks that are around that area. Talk about the zebras, white rhinos, baboons, and elephant, lions, and very many other species. So those are some of that is one of our introduction about the territories and the regions of Africa. So with those few words, I beg to stop here. We shall be picking up next time. We shall be looking at the politics and the economy of Africa.